Welcome to Carter's Country Club. This is episode 3. Is it the Spark of Creation? Part 8. I'm in Taylor Lashbrook-Wright, and I know this is long, right? But what I'm going to do my best to do, since it is 2006, not the old episodes from 2005, is I'm going to do my best to slow down just a little bit because I think that sometimes I'm trying to rush and make this content, you know, as quick for you as I possibly can. But really, I need to slow down because sometimes I know what I'm here to share. I know what I'm doing my best to say, but I don't know if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So I'm going to play the very last bit again, like I did in part 7 of Is It the Spark of Creation? But just for a few seconds here because I want you to hear this because I don't know if I made it clear enough.
Well, that's alright if you're a kind of crustacean. But if you're born with an imagination, sooner or later you're feeling the fire. Get hotter and higher. The spark of creation.
Okay, I really like to hear the clapping at the end, but we don't have to go all the way there. Okay, but this is about creation. I am here because it is the spark of creation. We do have a creator, and it is within us to, I think what Jake said today, maybe I heard him incorrectly, but what I heard and what he was sharing when Hondo and Jake and I recorded our second podcast was that we're the small c creator. So we're here to create, to generate. And I might get a little distracted by other things, or as I have shared with you before, I've recorded this content many times and I can't always remember what I've shared and what I haven't. So, when we know better, we do better. And I'm hoping to do a little bit better. Okay, so we left off talking about the masculine. And I love these pictures of Carter and Justin from 2020. We are inside a gym that we were allowed to go into in the middle of the day when other people were not there. And why I want to get a little bit more feisty with you, gentlemen, is it is my experience that many American men have identified this term of a dad bod and that they feel like it's part of being a dad to be like unhealthy or inactive or all of those things. And I don't think that's part of being a dad. That's perhaps part of our culture. So, Justin is a wonderful dad and a powerful father figure, like all of the great archetypes of the father. Um, but I think that we can all be healthier. And what I love and why I like to share this is I was behind the camera. And so I'm telling Justin to like sit up straight and sit up straighter and sit up straighter. So probably like the picture in the middle, right? You can see his posture is really straight. And I can do better as a supportive feminine, as a supportive partner to take care of his body a little bit better because he is very, very tall and his posture is concerning to me. And instead of me judging from the outside, I can do my best to take care of him and support his posture. And I would love to support you if you are needing some support in your physical practice. That is, again, what I wanted to talk to here with balancing the masculine and the feminine. We've got to come together to heal the fact that we have a very distorted sense of masculine and feminine. And we love some George Strait. And what do they call him? King George Carter? They call him King George. They do. I don't know that we need kings, but if we needed to give somebody the title of king, I would sure rather give it to George Strait other than like maybe King Louis or somebody else. Daddies don't just love their children every now and then, it's a love without end. Amen. So, back in 2020, when people were afraid of everything, this is a different gym that we had access to, but they allowed us to breathe and move freely. And there's Carter just crushing it out. And as always, getting in people's way as he pushes his little sled around. It's perfect. But I'm pretty grateful to everyday athletes, and hopefully they have been vindicated because they remained open and they allowed people to be in there. And I got to train with one of the owners who's a super smart coach, and we had a good time there. We love some everyday athletes. And you can hear Justin behind the
You're
camera
almost
a little
there.
bit.
You're
Carter's
over
getting
halfway.
Carter's getting a little frustrated here. He's talking about that his grip hurts. I hear that from children every day. Other
Almost there.
four-year-olds just like him, but they're probably not dragging a, kind of, I guess that would be like a sandbag, isn't it? It's a
You're
very
close.
fancy sandbag.
You gotta cross the finish line. Oh, he's almost there.
He's got his little Vans on. Yep.
Take it all the way across.
Oh, we tell him to take all the way across. But Jake and Hondo and I got to talk about kind of the world that Carter was in 2020, 2021, which some of these images are from. By 4 years old, Carter had learned to stand up and say no. Since he chose not to wear a mask and Kentucky did not force them on children under the age of 5, he took matters into his own little hands. We also continued to go where we were welcome. So this juice bar is like Carter walked in by himself, the 4-year-old, and communicated and got himself his own little smoothie. So that way, I didn't have to deal with the conversation of the masks because no one could put a mask on him, even if they, wanted to, because obviously we were going to stand up for that. But the ridiculous authority leader, if you can call him. I like to call the governor of Kentucky. His name is Andy Brashear or Andrew Brashear. We like to just call him Randy here in this house. Carter already said it out loud. He said Randy. We don't give him any kind of respect, so we just call him Randy. Like he's one of those people that like you don't care enough about him to say his name. So it's like if we met him, be like, "Oh yeah, Randy," and he's like, "No, I'm Andy. I'm the governor of Kentucky. I'm Governor Andy Brashear." Yeah, right, Randy. Randy. That's right. That's what we say to you. But anyway, we frequented businesses and gave our money and support to those that allowed us to breathe freely. And this lovely gluten free place is no longer open, but we did get to go there. And yeah, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. So we were doing all kinds of little civil disobedience acts that we could, and I was empowering the 4-year-old to stand up as much as he could. And we found a league that allowed everybody to breathe. But we found that we were welcome to breathe in some sports, but we know that life is not about playing games. So, um, you know, it's 100%, not the answer to just find the places that work for you or just the places that you're welcome, because when one suffers, all of us suffer, right? So even though we were able to find these communities and we were able to kind of figure things out, we understand that that's not what most people were experiencing. But because we did keep our son healthy, he spent a lot of time outside riding his bike. And Carter didn't know this reference. I think I made this. I told him the other day. I said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." But he doesn't, know that pop song reference. But this is Carter, and this is a pretty impressive thing that he's about to do. Because when you're a
Good
dude,
job, Gigi.
you just want to be a dude, and you want to
Good job.
ride
Big
your
push. Big
bike.
push.
And the masculine is so
Run
strong.
it up. You got
And
it. You got it.
this
Walk
is
it up and then go around again. You got it.
my own ignorance. Let
Yep.
me
Yep.
just
Yep. Go up there and then go around. You got it.
Yep. So he's doing a mountain bike race, and here is my own ignorance. Didn't even occur to me that this is a single speed bike because that's how clueless I am, right? I can be like the most, that's not me in the picture, by the way. That's just some lady. But I am clueless. But in 2024, when Carter did the same race, we are very fortunate that our parents were able to support us, and Carter could have a really nice bike so that he could compete in a mountain bike race and a trail run without being on a single speed bicycle. And Justin had said, he's like, why did you sign him up for that race? And I was like, Carter will be fine. He's like, he's on a single speed bike. And I'm like, what does that matter? Right. And Carter did. He did the second. He was fine. He said that in the background. He did the second lap, and he did. And how old was he there? I think he was about 6. He's 6 years old, and competes in a mountain bike race with a single speed bicycle. But not this last year because they didn't host the race. I guess there's no money for mountain biking, which is probably pretty common. But in 2024, he had a better bike, and so still running and biking. Here's a quote that I read in my preview where I talked about my Hondo and Jake and I doing our podcast on religion, but I'm going to read this for us again. Today, we need a nation of Minutemen, citizens who are not only prepared to take arms, but citizens who regard the preservation of freedom as the basic purpose of their daily life and who are willing to consciously work and sacrifice for that freedom. That's John F. Kennedy, JFK. I don't have to agree with everything he said. I don't, I completely, we don't even need to get into JFK and all of the things and the Kennedy family and order following and all of that. Why I shared this quote is I was clueless. I was clueless about self defense, just like I was clueless about single speed bicycles. Okay. As I've shared before, I wanted to be a dirtbag rock climber, and I went to 2 universities and studied musical theater and dance. Okay, so I can be the most clueless, ditzy airhead, right? In the past, I shared, past slide in the last episode, the last part in part 7, I didn't even talk about the fact that I shared the movie Clueless and the classical novel Emma because I assumed that you would make that reference that Clueless is a modern movie version of Jane Austen's Emma. Jane Austen's Emma was so hard for me to understand when I read that book that I listened to an audio tape and read the book at the same time so that I could have that understanding. But, my ignorant self had definitely seen Clueless a million times. So, when we know better, we do better. But Justin is not clueless. And I love to share these images because, he doesn't really, I think he's like, oh my gosh, Anne, why are you going back and sharing those things? But during 2020 and 2021, we went out to a local park and took a bunch of these images. And I just think, I mean, these are the 2 men that I love the most in the world, so I think they're pretty awesome. And Carter's "When Tyranny Becomes Law, Rebellion Becomes Duty" is what his little shirt is that you can see underneath that vest. And we went and saw the USS Alabama. My grandfather was in the Navy on the USS Montpelier. And again, it's like it does take two. I understand that many of you in Passio's community and many of you in the whole world are divorced, are separated, are raising your children separately. Um, but I know that it's up to Justin and I to be together, and I know that it's the best place for Carter. I'm not here to say what's the best place for other people. It really frustrates me when people try to put their beliefs or their religious dogma on other individuals' relationships. I can't understand them. I know that I spent years and years and years and really decades of my life working to heal my relationship between masculine and feminine, and to really heal my relationship with myself and understanding and accepting my own gender and sexuality and all of those things. But I know for Carter, he must have both of us. And this is an image of Carter and Justin planting some trees when Carter went to forest school. And again, I've talked before about forest school, the pros and cons of that. Carter in the background says that he loved forest school. Justin and I definitely felt like it was Lord of the Flies, and that there was a lot of ignorance among the individuals that ran that program. And I took this image of him when we were out in Colorado. And I shared this also today in regard to religion. Trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky. And I want to speak directly again to my flat earth friends. Carter and I really like this image of the crystal trees. Justin has climbed Devil's Tower, El Matador specifically, that route. And it makes sense to me, my flat earth friends, that these hexagonal columns and structures would be more like crystals. So I'm with you. I'm with you in a lot of areas, my flat earth friends. And I just invite you to come together. I invite all of us that are, that are tree huggers, were tree huggers, love the trees, love natures, or even people that think tree hugging hippies are stupid. I just invite us all to come together. So, this is Carter in his toddler time. And it says this little dirtbag was half raised in Wolfe County, Kentucky, and half raised in an urban jungle. And I think these are just perfect. So I'd like to share these videos with you. This is Carter filling up a little water bottle. And I'm hoping that you also have access to spring water where you live. I hope that you know about adding fluoride to your water, and that is absolutely wrong and toxic and damaging. I hope that you also know about balance bikes, because I've shared this before, right? He had 4 balance bikes. I shared the image of, you haven't seen the image of his pink one. He did have a pink one. You've seen the image of him playing with a pink bicycle at REI. But this green bike was the first one that my mom got him. And this day was another day that we were really, really grateful to have Justin, because Justin was working nights when Carter was a baby. And this is mostly what I spent my days doing, taking him to skate parks, taking him to playgrounds. But as Justin is here with us that day, and I can't remember if we had already gone out to the gorge or if this is just like a trip. But one of the things that we noticed, because I always just kind of let Carter play around and toddle around, you see his little bare feet, and look, he's going to make a really good choice here. He was a very cautious dude. He's going to walk it down, right? He wasn't reckless. And, he's fully 2 years old at the time. But what I wouldn't have known if Justin hadn't been there was that there was a creeper, a pedo, a chomo that was watching Carter. And I did kind of notice eventually, and I got in the way, which is why I was right behind Carter to take this video. But that guy was watching him. And, when we know better, we do better. And I've shared this image before in this slide. And maybe you have never been to Kentucky. You, the person that's viewing this video, maybe you don't know your geography. Like I've shared earlier, I didn't understand where Jake lives in England. I didn't, but then he referenced Brighton and referenced East Sussex, and I started to kind of put the connection together. But maybe you don't know the geography of Kentucky, and I get that. So I live in Bowling Green. My family is from Davis County, which is outside of Owensboro. And all of these images are from Louisville, Kentucky, and they're from what would be referred to as the Breonna Taylor protest, right? So during COVID, because I wouldn't wear a mask to teach fitness or coach or teach Pilates, and I couldn't find anywhere that would welcome me. Justin, we had left the Red River Gorge because the gorge had shut down. And he was able to kind of go back to his old ways and be able to work in a gun store. But he didn't have to wear a mask there. But for me, I couldn't find anywhere to work. And in order to, I did what other people did, right? So I took a job and I waited tables at a barbecue restaurant. Fortunately, I could, I would I would be able to breathe most of the time when I went into the back, but when I went out to serve people, I wore a mask. And I could have fought it, but I kind of liked the fact that I was getting to experience what it was like to really feel like I was a slave. I really got to feel it. I really got to see how people viewed me, how they related to me. I did, wear my little backward lions, not sheep hat while I waited tables. But what was really cool while I worked in this barbecue restaurant, it's only the second time in my life that I've ever waited tables. Justin and I waited tables for a friend's restaurant and bar in the Red River Gorge, but I never got to have that experience of being able to be a server. And I'm really glad that I got to do that during COVID, because I also in the back in the kitchen was able to interact with a lot of different kinds of people. I made a very, very good friend who he and I agreed upon a lot of things, and we talked a lot about Alex Jones at the time, and just different stuff. And we would both end up going into lifeguarding and coaching swimming and gymnastics and some cool stuff. But what I also got to interact with were people that were protesting, and I got to hear their side of it. And I also got to interact with a bunch of whatever you want to call people, whatever you feel is right. If you want to call them black, if you want to call them African American, not all these individuals were African American because some of them were actually, you know, multiple generations from here. One really is from Africa that I worked with in the back. But I loved hanging out with these guys. I loved, had lots of good cannabis, lots of the things. But a lot of these individuals were afraid of the vaccine. Some of them, very pro vaccine and different things there. But what many people didn't know is how many people of color knew about Bill Gates' experimentation on specifically girls and women in Africa. And so a lot of really ignorant people didn't know how many people of color did not want to get vaccinated. The other thing is, many of these people were against police, but they were still looking to the authority of government. So it was really an interesting place and an interesting time to be in. And I would have people that I thought I knew, that I thought were my friends from California and other places in the world, that would try to tell me what was going on with the protest and Breonna Taylor, and try to tell me how I should listen to Black people and listen to people of color, when I was literally there. I was not protesting, right? I was not protesting for her. I also, Justin was actually listening on a scanner, on a police scanner, the night that all that came in with Breonna Taylor, which was actually many months before they used her image for these protests. But absolutely, police and the authority and the order followers are the problem, 100%. But I don't think that's why George Soros and Antifa were pushing this agenda, right? And then the fact that, like Kondo and Jake and I talked about today, when people can see through some areas but not others. So again, I just want to invite us to think a little bit more deeply about things. And I love some Dolly Parton. And right now, as I've shared before, we're producing our fourth spring show, and this one is entitled Cowboys and Cowgirls. But I love this fuck around and find out and the image of Dolly. It's just fantastic because people have told me before, they're like, are you afraid to share images of your son? I'm like, no. Look at his dad. Look at him right there. We're not worried, right? And I've talked a lot about early access to sport and athletics, and I know that maybe that doesn't make sense in the realm of everything I'm sharing here, but it does because I want to get back, not get back, but I want to be together in the real world. Carter was 4 years old and getting to learn to ski. We just got to take a ski trip to West Virginia. But I know there's bigger things in the world that we need to be doing right now. I really get that. So I really get the urgency because I don't want to leave this world. I do want to get to ski and rock climb and do all of this, right? So we have to expect to self rescue. No one is coming. It is up to us. And again, I wouldn't know anything about self rescuing if it wasn't for him, right? So this is a real image, right? Obviously, of Justin and Carter, but we were, doing. It's like a little multi pitch, and like Carter climbed up there and he didn't weigh enough to lower down. So luckily, Justin has the skills to go up and rescue him. Not that it was a really scary rescue or anything like that, but he could get up there and bring him down. And that's what we all need to do, right? We are not waiting for authority. We are not waiting for somebody to come and rescue us. It is up to us. And of course, I knew nothing about this concept because, I guess 30 seconds out, that's probably, I don't know, some guys that are ex military or whatever. I don't even know where it comes from. But they are, Carter says. And so again, those things are hidden from other people, right? People like myself that don't come from that world and are really ignorant, that I didn't know that it was going to be up to us. And I had this sticker on my car for a really long time that said, you know, no one is coming, it's up to us, right? So it is up to us. And if this is resonating and making sense to you, then as I continue to share, I want you to reach out. And I'm going to get a little bit more as we move into part 9 and continue on here into more about this principle of gender. But if I didn't have him, if I didn't have Justin, I don't believe I would have been able to complete this process within myself of balancing the masculine and feminine, because that mirror principle, I needed to see this in him, even though, like I shared, I thought I was in this twin flame dynamic. I thought that this other Libra and I were just going to sit on either sides of the scale and balance each other out. And I'm super grateful for those couple of decades, and I'm super grateful for that person and the lessons that we got to learn. But I'm really grateful that I chose Justin. And I'm really grateful that he's the one here, right? And I'm really grateful that he's Carter's father and his dad and all the things. There's always a synchromistic element. So again, I'll share my email because I'd love for you to reach out. Whether you donate or not, it really doesn't matter. But I love to, just put it out there in case somebody who's watching this wants to make a private donation, a voluntary private donation to Carter's Country Club, such that we can make a difference. And as we work to pull our way out of slavery, I want to continue to paint this vision of what is possible. Okay, it is possible for our children. It is possible for us to come together, and surely it's possible for us to get off these screens and be together in person. So, thanks for listening. I'll see you soon.